participants and organizers, sir. Uh, Anish Gandhi, sir, is a principal at CK Pithawala College of Engineering and Technology, Surat. Sir's specialization or say specific domain in the IPR, intellectual property rights. Sir has completed his UG to PhD from one of the reputed institutes, SVNIT, Surat. Sir has more than 24 years of experience in the technical field, and Sir has guided 10 PhD students. Sir has more than 50 publications in the international journals. Uh, Today's lecture is a topic regarding the IPR. Okay, so sir specialization is that one. He has completed a PG diploma in intellectual property rights, as well as introduction to the Patent Cooperation Treaty, World Intellectual, then Property Organization, WIPO Academy. Sir, main domain in the patent and design side. Okay, so sir is also serving in the different committees regarding the SSIP, IPR, then startup, as well as the ISO. As our Honorable Prime Minister's vision to make the India $5 trillion economy, and with the conventional or say without any innovation or creation, it is not possible. So sir is also working and guiding all the students as well as the industry persons regarding the intellectual property rights. And today sir is also delivering the same content to us so we can enhance our knowledge and broaden our horizon in case of the technological advancements. I would also get the privilege to say welcome my guide teacher. So I am thankful to the AICT Atal FDP as well as the coordinator of this trainee program. Now I would like to request Dr. Anish Gandhi sir to give or say expand our horizon in technological area, especially in the intellectual property rights. Dr. Anish Gandhi sir, please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Prasant, and thank you, Maya Madam. First of all, I am thankful to the LD College Morbi for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge. And topic, if you look at again, it's a need of a time like Industry 4.0 and manufacturing. So of course, as I am now working in the domain of the IPR also, a lot of new challenges are coming to us over the period of time, that how to take care of the, say, protection of the intellectual property rights, which are in the domain of, say, Industry 4.0. So with that, I have tried to check, prepare the content of my presentation today, and I'll be delivering that. Of course, I am sure that it is going to give you a lot of new concepts and related topics. So now I am sharing my screen to all of you.
Please, sir. Please.
Screen is visible, madam. Let me okay, share
yes,
my slide.
Not yet, sir.
So slide is visible on your screen?
No, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry for a little bit interruption in between. So it is an AICT sponsored 1 week faculty development program. That is the topic of, so I am going to discuss on the topic of Industry 4.0 and intellectual property rights. Again, a very unique topic, which is a need of an hour, and a lot of say confusions are there and many challenges are there as far as this particular domain is concerned. So now if I talk about my content, maybe you might have gone through the few of the content maybe by the other experts also, but I will try to say give you the background on a perspective so that we can understand basically on the last two topics. So I'll be discussing on the introduction to Industry 4.0, then how the transformation has taken place from the Industry 1.0 to 4.0. Then I have included one very unique example from the industry that is related to the case of the digital enterprise. Then Industry 4.0 in Indian context I am going to discuss. Then three groups of technologies for Industry 4.0 according to the European Patent Office, that is EPO, that I'll be discussing. Then what are the Industry 4.0 global statistics? Then what are the new challenges to the intellectual property system and innovation policy in the digital era? And of course, at the end, there are a few references which I'll be acknowledging. On the basis of that, I have come up with this particular content of the today's discussion. So let us little bit talk about Industry 4.0. Say when you look at the fourth industrial revolution, it is also known as Industry 4.0, also known as I 4.0, and that is bringing together the different silos in a production system via, if you look at via a network, that is basically in the form of the hardware, then allowing real-time data sharing. So this is something related to the, you can say, the soft side of that, and which basically facilitating machine to machine as well as human to machine interaction to unprecedented speed and the scale. I think there is some noise disturbance in between from somebody's mic, so I request to please put it on a mute mode. There is some disturbance from the mic of the maybe any of the participant. I request them to put it on a mute. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So when we talk about the here again, say fourth industrial revolution is bringing together the different silos, okay, in a production system via we are talking about the network, then we are talking about the data sharing, and which basically facilitates machine to machine and human to machine interaction. Okay, that we are again going to understand with the help of some of the examples, right? Now, basically, this is giving a rise to the seamlessly integrated value chain, which interconnected cyber and physical systems. So here we have to
Hello? Hello?
all the say stakeholders in the decentralized decision making, and second is the we are going to talk about say achievement of the, you can say, the level of automation which is beyond the imagination, what you can say is here. Now the digitization of the entire manufacturing value chain, starting from say we are talking about the various functions of any organization like procurement of the material, and extending the right up to the customer service using the mobile devices, communication network, sensor, and actuator is completely transforming how the world factories operate. So again, the one example which I've included here, which is in the form of one video, okay, you will come to know a lot of things as far as the interaction of such a devices are concerned. And adoption of the Industry 4.0 and what are the benefits, okay, to the manufacturers. So see here we have focused basically on the manufacturing aspect, looking to the theme of our particular, even the topic also. So say one benefit is cost reduction, and you can say the achieving the higher level of efficiency. So to elaborate more in detail, say when we look at cyber physical system, can monitor the factory processes and make the decentralized decision, enabling the faster processing. So if we talk about here in detail, a connected factory is capable of taking the automated self-correction measure in the instant of error. So basically you can say that even we are talking about say artificial neural network at some point of time. So basically these are the systems, okay, which creates the artificial mind and which are capable of taking the decision just like the human minds. So you might have come across a lot of applications of say artificial neural network in case of say, that is what we call it as an artificial intelligence. So in manufacturing sector also. So that is possible when you talk about the industry 4.0 adoption in the manufacturing. Then technologies such as 3D printing. So many more people are now talking about 3D printing, and continuous research is going on. Okay, as far as the 3D printing is concerned, even a lot of say large number of faculties and researchers are doing some research as a part of maybe their MTech and PhD as far as the 3D printing is concerned. So when you look at the 3D printing and laser technology, that basically allows the better utilization of the resources, such as resources maybe in terms of say soft floor, and thereby adding to the operational efficiencies. And this ultimately, when efficiency increase, okay, it leads to the cost saving, better productivity, and you can say the faster time to market. See, basically what is the today's challenge is the last one, faster time to market. So how fast from the concept to the commercialization you can transform upon. Okay, because when we look at the first concept, then we are talking about say converting that concept into the form of some say more robust idea, putting it on paper in the form of maybe the specification, the design of a system, and then coming up with a first prototype, then testing of all, and then converting it to the again the you can say the commercialization. Okay, after going through some modifications based on the results of the and testing of the prototypes. So basically it's a long process, and earlier you might have observed that when we talk about the 20 years back era, maybe 30 years back era, even very limited you can say the automobiles were coming into the market. But now if you look at day by day, say you can say each day some new model of the four-wheeler or two-wheelers are introduced, and even there is a very fast transformation. So when we want to compete, basically the last is very important, that is faster the time to market. So how fast we can convert our idea into the commercialization. Then the second is a value addition we are talking about. So when digital manufacturing technologies, okay, such as 3D printing, laser cutting, CNC milling, robotic assembly, allow manufacturing of the product in a small batch, thereby allowing for a better customization, quality, and value addition. See, now here I will focus on two aspects. One, that is what we call it as a level of automation, and second, what we call it as a flexibility. So even you all know that as a being part of the manufacturing, that when we talk about say increase in the level of automation, ultimately it will be at the cost of the flexibility. The flexibility will be lost. And if you try to come up with a system which is a very much flexible, okay, which can adapt to the any change in the say production volume, or which can adapt to the change in the design easily, then ultimately it will be at the cost of automation. So but now when you look at the challenges, whatever is available, see, we want to have the technology, okay, which is automated as well as it should be as flexible as possible. Now again, to search for the answer for that, okay, lot of research has been taken place, and even you can say industry 4.0 is again because of this particular requirement you can talk about. So now another advantage is health and safety of the factory workers. So by eliminating need for human presence, okay, and intervention in the certain high risk task, and environments. Industry 4.0 can help the manufacturer avoid exposing the worker to the health hazard and reduce the fatalities on the factory floor. Nowadays, more or less, at many places, we are coming across the completely automated factories where you will find that no human beings are there. Robots are working. Everything is going on, okay, on its own with the help of some automated technologies. Human beings are there just to monitor, or maybe for certain, say, controlling purpose. They can sit at some distance place and they can operate whole factory. So this is not a new now, and because of that, ultimately we can avoid the exposure of the, you can say, the human beings to the environment, which is not say good, or maybe which is an hazardous. Okay, so in this way it is of the great help to the society. So now very fast we will have a quick look at this. And why we want to understand this? We want to understand that how the various elements are added when we have moved from industry 1.0 to the industry 4.0. So let us understand the rise of the connected ecosystem when we talk about industry 1.0 to 4.0. So this is the first industrial revolution era, which was roughly, it has started from 1760, where we witnessed the exponential growth of the machinery, then mechanization in the production with the help of water and steam power. Before to that, if you look at, okay, so manufacturing was done with the simple tool and thereby unskilled workers who worked under the unbearable conditions. So as we know that this is a first industrial revolution where water and steam power has been used first time. Now, when we look at the second industrial revolution, okay, the year goes back to the 1870. So it has witnessed the electrical power generation, which has replaced the water and steam powered engines. Then large scale production, large factories such as the steel revolution in the manufacturing factories. Again, it is as a result of the second revolution. Then advent of the assembly line, okay, as you can see in the photograph, okay. And electric power revolution, telephone as well as refrigerators and washing machines. These are the things which has been introduced. So you can see here in the photograph one of the, say, assembly line, okay, which was from the very, you can say, the one of the car manufacturer. And on the right side, you can see the first telephone device, as you can see. And third industrial revolution. So again, there is some printing mistake here. The year goes back to the, you can say up to 1999 it was, but it has started from 1970 you can talk about. So where we talked about the digital revolution, so categorized by the automating production and information technology. It comes with the enormous change in the industries with the digitization that transform the manufacturing and the automation. And the period witnessed the exponential technology changes like 3D printing, big data, modern technology in mechanical devices instead of the analog electronics. So more or less we have transformed towards the digital electronics, the digital era, when you talk about this particular period. Again, what has helped here to come to this level is introduction of the desktop computers. Okay, say if you talk about the time period before this, basically the computers were not so easily available, and that were huge in size, that were with the limited computing capacities. And once the desktop computers were introduced, okay, we have seen that now computers were available to the individual people on their desktop. Okay, and then later on many more changes has come across, as we know. Then we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution. So fourth IR, or the industry 4.0, is witnessing the drastical and exponential change, okay, that is transforming how the people working with the device. So now we are talking about the say integration in working. Okay, now integration in working of a people, you can say, with a device like a computer to the electronic devices. And we are also talking about how the electronic devices are working and helping the human beings. Not only that, the fourth industrial revolution is a continuation of the third industrial revolution that was categorized with digitalization and automation manufacturing. See, here we are going to talk about two type of interaction. One, people to machine, and another machine to machine. So one is a human to machine and another is a machine to machine interaction. So that is the basically you can say the core of the fourth industrial revolution. So again, you can go to the photograph on the right side. You can see the world first robot citizen. Some citizenship has been offered by one of the country, as you know, and that robot is named as a Sophia, and a very patented technology. So when you look at here, the first industrial revolution, you can look at here, okay, the mechanical assemblies were there. When first to second, so mechanical assemblies along with the introduction of some electronic systems. Then second to third, we talked about mechanical assemblies, some electronic systems, and then IT and automation controls. That is information technology and automation controls. And when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, the various elements are mechanical assembly, electronics, then use of IT and automation controls, and one more element has been added, and that is embedded and connected IT with interaction with a physical system. Of course, interaction with the physical system we are going to understand in our successive discussion. We are much more talking about now Internet of Things, IoT. So that talks about the interaction, okay, with the physical system, you can say. Now, when you look at here, the fourth industrial revolution is a cyber physical system characterized by a physical, digital, and biological sphere, which is transforming and impacting all the work of life, including economics and industry. See, now to understand this definition, one of my video will be very much helpful to you. In this video, you will understand that how we are talking about the cyber physical system, which is characterized by physical, digital, biological sphere, which is transforming and impacting almost all the, you can say the elements of a life, including economics and industries. So it is witnessing the growth of, say, Industry 4.0 is witnessing the growth of 3D printing. You know that 3D printing technologies has been introduced, but again it is limited in the form of its speed, limited in the form of its say size of the component which can be printed, limited in terms of the material which can be 3D printed, like that. Then there is an intellectual property. Again, a lot of things are going on as far as the intellectual property laws are concerned all over the world with the introduction of the 4.0, and our major focus will be on this second one for a today's talk in the last 50% of time. Then we are talking about the artificial intelligence, then smart robots and automation. Quantum computing is also one of the, you can say, a research area where a lot of people are working, and it is also the need of an hour. Then Internet of Things, as you all know, that now it is affecting each and every elements of life. Then drone technologies, okay, which has again, you can say the applications in the varied field of the technology and the commerce also. Then there is a blockchain technology and use of the big data. So with the introduction of Industry 4.0, we are also witnessing the growth in all this area, whatever has been named here. And even if you are looking for some research, okay, even from the commercial perspective, then also we must try to explore now, even in the manufacturing also, the various area which has been listed here. So now this is something in the form of a diagrammatic representation, whatever the things we have looked into detail. So again, it talks about the Industry 4.0. Then it talks about the Internet of Things, then cloud computing, big data, additive manufacturing, okay, augmented reality. We are also familiar with now AR, VR. So just by sitting at home and with the help of one, you can say the app in our mobile phone, we can take a decision to purchase the furniture also. Okay, and it will gives us the real say feeling that how this furniture will be accommodated in a particular room and how it will looks like. So this is one of the example of, you can say, the augmented and virtual reality, that is AR VR. Then there is a robotic cyber security is also coming up now, because you just imagine that we are talking about Internet of Things. So almost you can say the large number of equipments, even home appliances, automobiles, whatever we are using, these are controlled by some you can say the data. Okay, some cyber system. So if we are talking about the hacking of that, ultimately it creates a lot of problem. And just before 1 month, you might have come across one news where there were some industry in the US, and whole pipeline system or delivery system of that particular industry was hacked by one of the group, and against that they have demanded for a huge money and they require to pay. So this is what you can say is a cyber attack ultimately. So again, a lot of things require to be done on this particular era. Then we are talking about the machine to machine, okay, interactions. So with this, let us go further. Let us have one video here. Madam, screen is available.
Sir, screen is available, but if you are presenting any video, the
Now,
sound is not coming. The sound is not there.
acha, voice is there now.
No, no, no. Your voice is coming, but video's sound is not coming.
Video sound is not there.
Uh-huh.
Acha. Just a minute, madam. Let me
Gee.
try.
Right, right, sir.
It is directly played from the internet basically, but still
Okay.
the voice is not there.
No, no.
No, sir.
Voice is there now.
No.
No.
Oh. So I think voice is not there. I am running directly from the internet, but it is happening many times in the Microsoft Teams when we are presenting.
Okay.
In the Google, such problems, say Google Meet, such a problems are not identified actually.
Right, sir.
Okay. So let me play the video. Okay, I will just
Yeah.
make you to understand various elements of this
Okay.
particular video later on. If the voice is there, really it could have been of say much valuable to the people, okay, who are attending here.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we have to work with it.
Ma'am, Maya ma'am,
Gee.
if you don't mind, then may I tell you something regarding playing audio?
Yeah, please, please. If it is
Uh,
helping in presenting the content, it will be in benefits of all. Please, please tell.
while presenting a video, there is a share content. If you click on share content, then there is a include computer sound tab is there. If it will not click, then click it and directly audio will come.
Right. Actually, ma'am, I am not having, I am not presenting the content. Dr. Anish Gandhi is doing this presentation. So I
Okay.
think he has
Sir.
tried. Huh,
Okay. Okay. Fine.
huh.
Madam, voice is not there, no, still?
No, 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 sir. No, sir.
Even in a full screen mode, it is not there?
No, no.
Okay.
Huh.
Sir, actually, at the time of sharing, you need to click on the computer sound. Then only it is going to be a audio during video play.
Hmm.
What should
While sharing the content which is having sound, you have to allow, means you have to move the button which is allowing your computer sound to play while sharing. So please try that one, sir, if possible.
Okay, both of the sharing screen at particular time.
Okay. Are you trying, sir?
hello?
Yes, sir.
Again, let me try.
Yeah, please.
Just hold on. Is voice available now?
No, 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 sir.
Okay, so let me skip this. I'll just pass on this video to you,
Yes, sir, please.
and I will request all the participant to just have a look of this 3 to 5 minutes video, and
Yes.
that will more connect with whatever we have discussed or whatever we are going to discuss till the end of our particular presentation. Okay.
Right, sir. Please, sir.
So
Yeah.
sorry for any inconvenience which has been created because of this particular issue. So basically, this is example from the Siemens, and once you go through, it will talk about the a total digital factory, and it has emphasized on almost all the, you can say, the elements of any you can say the manufacturing, not only the manufacturing but a whole you can say the business supply chain, which is, you can say, talking about not only manufacturing but backward integration, like procuring the raw material, and up to the forward, you can say, integration, like maybe the sales, after sales servicing, marketing, and many other aspects. So I'll share this particular link, and please, I'll request all of you to have a look at it, and you will enjoy definitely. So when we look at the industry 4.0 and India Inc., so how India is preparing itself for, say, change as far as the industry 4.0 is concerned. And definitely you will also connect yourself because we are also in education coming up with a lot of new things. So we'll wonder today that how it has been taken care of considering the industry 4.0. So when we look at a global perspective, globally industry 4.0 market is expected to reach, okay, of INR, you can see here approximately 14 lakh crore by 2023. Countries such as US, China, Japan, European nations such as UK, Ireland, Sweden, and Austria have all started adopting Industry 4.0. See, these are the few name of, you can say, the key players. Okay, there are many more countries, but these are the name of a few players, okay, which are, say, deeply involved as far as the Industry 4.0 development is concerned. Now, in India, the sixth largest manufacturing country, the manufacturing sector forms an integral part of the country's long-term vision, as seen by the government's strong focus on the Make in India campaign. So we all familiar with the Make in India campaign, and here the government aims to augment the share in manufacturing in GDP. So share of manufacturing in GDP to 25% from the current 17% by 2022. So basically, we are talking about 5 trillion economy where manufacturing has also to play a great role. And we have witnessed that change now. Government has come up with, as we can see here, that lot of change in their taxation system. Okay, and then if you talk about even the share market, lot of changes has been taken place. And then say if you talk about, basically now you can say lot of policy change has been taken up to invite the foreign multinationals to enter into the India and to establish their manufacturing units. And as we know that even this COVID situation has helped us a lot and going to help a lot in a long way, because if we look at the main competitor is the China, and now lot of industries are now, say, closing or reducing their volume of working in the China, then want to have establishment of the facility in some other countries. Now, a number of initiatives and policy reforms such as implementation of the GST and easing the foreign direct investment policies has been taken by the government, as we know. Now, some of the notable steps taken by the say automotive manufacturing towards the Industry 4.0 has resulted into, say, some of the example of the successful implementation, okay, in the industry. So this is first example is, say, use of the technology called cobots. When we talk about, see, cobots, this is basically named as a collaborative robots. So if you look at one of the manufacturers, I have given the symbol, say, logo on the bottom, that is from the Bajaj. Okay, so one of the largest manufacturer of the two-wheeler in the India has installed the cobots at its plant to automate the assembly lines. Several processes such as material handling, welding, deburring, bolt tightening, sealant application, machine tending were collaboratively handled by collaborative robots. Means basically there is a collaboration in a working at a work center between robot and human beings. Okay, and what are the benefits? So it has led to the enhancement in the productivity for the company. Production rose from 507 vehicle per person per year to 804 units per person per year while maintaining the existing standards. Then the largest two-wheeler manufacturer of the India using additive manufacturing for product designing of all the two-wheeler parts for fitment and functional testing. So this has helped the company to reduce its time to market. So we are talking about time to market also. So let us have, say, this is one of the photo from the shop floor, okay, of the same company, where you can see here that at a work center, you can see the various robotic arms and many other systems, and human beings are also there, okay, who are working. So there is a collaboration between working of the robots and the human beings on a same workstation, and that is what we call it as a cobot technology. Now, another sector which are speeding up to adopt the Industry 4.0 is one of the, say, example from the textile, that intelligent plant framework, which has been used by a Mumbai-based multinational company, okay, to connect all the machines and examine the rate of work and efficiency. And the framework allows to reduce the wastage and organize the production flows. Then in the packaging industry also, various connected machines. So a Bangalore-based packaging company has connected machines over the network that provides the monthly dashboard about the machines. It helps the company to put the predictive maintenance in place. So these are the few examples from the say India itself, where Industry 4.0 has been successfully say adopted. The steps taken by the government of India to promote the adoption of Industry 4.0 includes a National Manufacturing Policy 2017. So I've already talked about this. The basic aim of this policy is to reduce the share of manufacturing in GDP, okay, to increase the share of manufacturing GDP from 17% to 25% by the year end of 2022. Then you know that various center of excellence on the IT for Industry 4.0. So this center of excellence would act as a knowledge center for entrepreneurs and startups, propagating the concept of IT and its application in Industry 4.0. So a lot of things has been taken up as far as the center of excellence establishment is concerned. Then National Program on Artificial Intelligence. So in the Union Budget 2018-19, the Government of India announced that NITI Aayog will create a roadmap for National AI program focusing on developing a new AI applications. Then Mission on Cyber Physical Systems. So as per the Union Budget 18-19, Department of Science and Technology will launch a CPS program to support establishment of the Center of Excellence for training in robotic, AI, digital manufacturing, etc. I know that in various government colleges this has been established. Okay, now it is a different issue that how much operational it is and where we are lagging as far as the particular things are concerned. Now the skill required for the Industry 4.0 era. So as we know that when we are transforming and we are coming across the new industry, which is altogether requiring the different skills. So how to talk about that? So digital knowledge and the ability to work with the data, that is a major requirement. So the requirement is ability to use the automated system, knowledge of new age technologies such as IoT, AR, VR, machine learning, big data and analytics, knowledge of cyber security and data protection, and statistical knowledge and ability to analyze the data generated from the machines. So on the other side, cross-functional experience and the soft skill is also requirement. So understanding of the cross-functional processes. See, cross-functional, as we know that there are various functional departments in any of the industry. One is what we call it manufacturing, another is what we call it as a, you can say the purchase department, then quality control, then we are talking about the HR, we are talking about the marketing and sales. So when you talk about the cross-functional skill becomes very important here. Then focus on the client needs and industry trend, expertise in working under the ambiguous and changing environment, and honing soft skills such as collaboration, emotional intelligence, decision making, and upskilling mindset. See, upskilling means, so days has gone where, okay, we are entering into the industry and we are retiring from the industry, okay, with the same level of skill. Today, even if we want to continue in our job, not we are talking about the promotion or any other enhancement, then also we need to say develop ourselves with the period of time, because technological changes are going on at a very fast pace. And if we'll not do that, ultimately we'll be obsoleted and will become a useless for say any of the organization. So then what is the role of government, industry and academia in upskilling the skills? So when we look at the government, so take a job creation initiative like Make in India, okay, then involve the private sector. We know that now government is talking about the PPP model in many of the areas. Then launch of mass skilling initiative like Skill India is also one of the initiative, right, which aims to skill say certain statistics I have already given here. Create a proper infrastructure and develop innovation centers and test lab. So we are much familiar with this now. AIC, that is Atal Incubation Centers, has been established by the central government at many places with this particular aim. Then provide supportive policies and adequate financing for skill development, promote practical and industry oriented training, and improve the quality of academic institutions and vocational training. So we are also talking about now SARI certification in terms of the NBA, NAACN, like many other things. Now industry say create and define the new jobs, then provide reskilling opportunities by identifying the core set of industry relevant skill, provide cross-functional exposure, establish leadership, okay, then participate actively in PPP program which is established by the government, and undertake and invest in R&D. Then academia. So here when we talk about, that is enhance the quality of teacher and say modernize the learning infrastructure, align courses curricula. So even if you look at the AICT new handbooks, okay, which was of the last year and this year, so we know that various 9 different courses has been introduced in the, that is defined as a course in the emerging areas, specialization in emerging areas. And we know that these 9 areas are like artificial intelligence, then cyber security, then Internet of Things and robotics and many more to name here. So again, this is just because to align the skill requirement, right? And to develop and to prepare the India for the next coming challenges, right? Then focus more on the practical and result oriented knowledge over the theoretical content, and promote the culture of research in upcoming areas like I 4.0. Participate actively in the development of massive open online courses. We know that nowadays we are available with the lot of opportunities here. Even NPTEL is the best, you can say, the platform where you can talk about the various courses. Then collaborate with the industry players, okay. So this is one example, that reputed academic institute in Bangalore setting up the smart factory in collaboration with the global aerospace major. So these are, say, you can say a few of the steps which you can understand. Now there are 3 groups of technologies, okay, for industry 4.0, which has been defined by say EPO, that is European Patent Office. The one is a core technology that is embodied in the connected object. Say it includes the hardware, then software and connectivity through the network, protocol and connected devices. Then there is another set of the group that is enabling technologies like artificial intelligence, 3D printing, adaptive, okay, security systems. Then application domains are there, that is in the form of the smart manufacturing, smart home, smart city, like that. So these are the 3, you can say, the core technologies, okay, which has been say defined by the EPO as far as industry 4.0 is concerned. Now, what is the global statistics for industry 4.0? So what India is doing already, we have gone through the detail. Then the number of patent applications in technology related to the industry 4.0, which has begun to rise in the mid 1990s. It has increased from around 300 in 1995 to 944 in 2000 and 5,500 in 2016. Then 2016, there were almost twice as many patent applications in industry 4.0 in 2011. So it talks about the growth which is going on as far as the research and development is concerned in industry 4.0. The share of all applicants at the EPO is small. In 2016, they constitute 3.3% of all European patent application, but it has grown from 1% in 1990. So that growth factor is an important. Now, inventions in industry 4.0 technologies at European Patent Office have been dominated by the countries like USA, Europe and Japan. The increase in the patent application industry 4.0 is driven by the limited number of applicants. So try to understand here, still there is a lot of scope and a lot of requirement. In 2011 to 16, a group of 25 applicants accounted for 48% of all the applications in the domain of industry 4.0 filed at European Patent Office. Out of top 25 applicants at EPO in industry 4.0 technologies are, okay, 12 Asian companies were involved, 7 from Japan like Sony, Panasonic, 3 from China to name a few, that is Huawei Technologies, then ZTE. From Korea, it is a companies like Samsung, LG. 7 companies from US like Qualcomm, Intel, Google. 5 from Europe, Nokia and many other. Then 1 from Canada, BlackBerry Limited. What about the India? So of course it is not there in the top applicants here, as you can see. Now, about 30% of the patent applications come from the inventors from the Europe. In Europe, there is a strong geographical concentration of Industry 4.0 patents. Germany is the leader in Europe, followed by France, United Kingdom, followed by Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, Switzerland. Okay, now why we are talking about all this? So basically, suppose if you are working in the domain of Industry 4.0, suppose you have come up with some technology, or say you are talking about or looking for certain patents which are already, you can say, filed or which are already granted. So where you should look upon? So you should look upon the patents, okay, which are granted by or which has been filed in the countries which we are naming here. So from that particular geographical concentrations, you will get a lot of knowledge, okay, in terms of the Industry 4.0. So now the core technologies of Industry 4.0, that is European countries, are the strongest in connectivity. Now see, domain wise also some statistics available. So as far as the connectivity domain is concerned, then Denmark, France, UK, okay, and Finland. So these are the countries. Then if you look about enabling technologies, the Europe is quite strong in artificial intelligence. Again, the name of the countries are given, but has relatively lower position in energy supply. Then in application domains, European countries rank highly for inventions in vehicle and infrastructure. Okay, so when you are talking about the technology field, okay, you can accordingly choose the particular patent office to search for the relevant patents, and it will give you a you can say really a rich data. So now why protecting innovation through the patent? So we know that to benefit those who have knowledge and inventive power. So that is basically for providing an incentive to encourage the innovation. So this is first one. To increase the cost of access to those people or a company without knowledge or inventive power by limiting the use of innovation, monopoly of the innovator. So basically it talks about why we should go for the patent, or why the say invention or innovation should be protected through the patent. Of course, it is for a commercial benefit. And not only that, even to provide the motivation to come up with the new resource, research. So what is the conclusion? So how is digital revolution changing the role of patents in protecting the innovation? Okay, so that is a major, you can say, the question of the today's era. So basically digital divide. So in terms of a different innovation modes, like innovation versus imitation. See, if you talk about nowadays, okay, everything is available on web. So you just sit on the computer, okay, go for a search browser or web browser, some search engine you can use, and you can have a lot of information in front of you. So because of that, even what has happened, that instead of innovation, circumvention or imitation or say copying has become much more common. Okay, so that is the first one. And another is a diffusion. So we will also understand this particular part. So in a fast developing digital industries, the protection of innovative solution has been changing. Innovators might not be interested in protecting new solutions through the patent. Why? The reason is too much time is needed to finalize the patent procedure. See, now with the help of SSIP and other government policies, okay, it is really great that even the people who are working in the academic institutions are much more, say, motivated to go for a patenting. They knows about the patenting and other IP tools which are available to them. But then as we know that when you talk about the patent, okay, it is with something very big as people are pursued. And of course, the time from application to the grant, okay, so it takes a few years. And now you can say talk about the average, on an average 3 years in this particular procedure. Earlier it was 7 years. So government is also working in that how it can be reduced. But again, because of that, okay, people are or innovators are not interested to go for protecting their product or processes through the patenting. The reason is, even nowadays we are talking about fast changing technologies, right? So each and every product is having a very shorter, you can say, the commercial life. And ultimately, as the patent granting takes a lot of time, how it is going to help them? So this is the biggest issue. Then protection of the digital innovation might not be possible. Like, even if you talk about the Indian Patent Act, so computer programs are not patentable as per the section 3 of the Indian Patent Act. So computer programs, algorithms, okay, these are the things which are not patentable. So again, this is a big question, because when you talk about Industry 4.0, when you talk about IoT, so at the core, many of the time, what is there? It is maybe the algorithm, the computer program. So how to talk about that? Then diffusions and imitation of the innovation is faster than before, right? Because of the availability of the large information, okay, maybe free of cost, okay, through the World Wide Web. So that is the biggest reason. Now, what are the new challenges in IP system and innovation policy in the digital era? So this is, after going through this, now this will be our core discussion, and we will try to understand this in next 20 minutes, and that will open up a lot of, say, different aspect, okay, for all of you to think into that direction. So what are the new challenges? So the all encompassing and rapid transition to the digital environments are related to what? Related to artificial intelligence, robotic and big data, 3D printing, Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, that is for industrial revolution. Now, what are the new challenges to IP system and innovation policy in the digital era in reference to? So patent, in reference to brand and design. So we are talking about the trademark, we are talking about the design registration here. Then copyright and related rights. So we are talking about copyrights here. Then intellectual property economics. Then intellectual property law and rules. Then intellectual property enforcement. So because when you own some right, okay, unless and until you will not enforce, there is no meaning. So enforcement of right, and then intellectual property office administration. So these are the various areas with respect to which we will now try to understand that what are the new challenges. Okay, so in terms of the patent, so it is worth considering how the patent system might impact advances in the artificial intelligence. On the other way, it is worth considering how artificial intelligence might impact the patent system in terms of claim construction, inventorship, requirement to patentability, and enforcement. Now, see, I'll make you to understand here certain aspect. See, why we are talking about the claim construction? So, because if you talk about the product or process patent, you are coming up with some claim forming. So, this is something related to patent drafting. But now, as far as the softwares are concerned, as far as the algorithms are concerned, so no patent is granted for that type of claims. So then how to represent that particular part of your invention so that it gets qualified as per the requirement of the Patent Act? Okay, now another is the inventorship. Now again, a lot of new challenges are coming, like when you talk about the artificial intelligence, say basically we are creating the artificial minds. Okay, and whatever the artificial systems are created, these are of the self-learning type. So what is happening, once you have created it, it keep on learning at its own on the basis of its experience. And because of that, it just act like a human mind. Over the period of time, your system will give you more better performance, will reduce the error, will reduce the accidents and many other things. So ultimately, see, patents are granted for the creation of the human mind. Okay, and not for the creation of the machine mind. So now with the advancement in this AI, how to protect and who will be the owner? Now the second thing is, suppose you have come up with the automatic car, okay, which is a driverless car, you can say. So when driverless car is purchased by somebody, it is manufactured by some company, it is invented by some company. Now when some accident happens, okay, now legality comes into the picture, then who is responsible? Okay, whether it is a manufacturer, whether it is an owner who is owning, or whether it is some other party, right? Or say data, which is you can say the data communication systems with that particular. So there are a lot of challenges as far as the AI is concerned in terms of the inventorship also. Then this is something, say if I talk about even patent, we talked about some, say as we know that it takes the extended period of time as far as the patent grant is concerned. So considering that, I am giving you one example. Even you might have heard about the Australian innovation patent, which is nowadays much in, you can say, the discussion. Why it is much in discussion? So because you may be getting a call and you may be getting, say, email that we can help you to come up with the Australian patent and will be granted the patent just within 2 months. So this is an Australian innovation patent which has been introduced by the Australian government with the aim to provide the grant to the patent in the area which is having the fast changing technology, right? And the term of that patent is also only the 8 years. Instead of the patent which is having the term of 20 years, innovation patent is having the, you can say, the term of only 8 years. Because it is granted, okay, for a technology which is fast changing. So it has been introduced in with that mindset only. Okay, this is one of the example how even the patent offices are looking at now. Now, as far as the brand is concerned, so what are the challenges? So new digital technologies alter fundamentally the traditional way the brand and design communicate reputation and image value. So non-traditional trademark protection. As an example, many times now we are coming across the animated logo, okay, of the various organizations, various companies, right? So now when you talk about the animated logo, how to apply for the trademark of that and how to protect it. So that is a big question. Then brand protection in the domain name system. Say when you register the domain name, actually check is not available in all the countries. So as an example, there is some well-known brand, say ABC company. So even as an individual, I don't have to do anything with that ABC company. But when I'm going for purchasing of the domain name for my own website, okay, I can use that word if it is available. So now it is creating a lot of problems. So how to take care of that? Then use of brand in social media. So can anybody use the brand in social media of somebody else? So how to take care of that? A lot of things are going on. Then protection of country name, geographical indication, and name of geographical significance against the unauthorized delegation as a domain name. Again, domain names has come into the picture. So there are a lot of challenges as far as the trademark registrations are concerned. Now, see, these are all different intellectual property rights which are available in India. So now we are talking about the design. So what are the challenges in terms of registration of design? So new digital technology impact the design of the product. So transition from the hardware design to the digital interfaces. So up till now, say if you talk about even design patent, so design patents are granted for an article of manufacture. So what do you mean by article of manufacture? So article of manufacture is which can be made in the industry. So physically it should exist. Now we are talking about the say different softwares, different computer applications. Suppose now you have come up with design which is in the digital form and it is working in digital form only. So then is there any option available to protect that particular designs? So that is another question. Then design protection for graphic user interface, that is GUI, icon, and type of fonts and etc., which appeals to the human eye. Okay. Then a copyright and related right issues. So now digital technologies has reshaped the way the content is being produced and consumed. Nowadays we are talking about instead of physical book. Okay, only the soft copy maybe. We are talking about the Kindle version of the various literatures. So Kindle version means the Kindle is one device which is offered to you. Okay, just like an iPad, and on that this can be read, a content can be read, and for that you have to pay. So this is like how the things are changing, the way the content is being produced and consumed. The global distribution of creative content is online, on demand, and at a very distant place also. Now it is very easy to share the content. Then new players and transforming business models have emerged, both at the national and international level, as we know. Now, a new global creative market has been shaped, and some challenges arises are how to ensure that developing and least developed countries can participate in this global market. Then how to create an adequate enabling infrastructure in the terms of say legal framework, management tool, market conditions, so that the developing and least developed countries can fully embrace the digital challenge. So this is something more related to the economies, right? We are talking about in terms of developed country, developing country, and underdeveloped country. So now if we talk about the IP economics, so challenges which are faced are digital technologies have transformed the value chain in the creative industries. Book, newspaper, music, movie, video, game, photography, etc. See, nowadays we are talking about the Netflix, Amazon Prime. Okay, the content which is offered to you only for these particular platforms. Earlier we used to have a cable line. Okay, we used to subscribe to the channels where the programs are available only on a fixed slot of time. So if you want to enjoy that, you should be there at that particular time. But now this digital platform has given you the liberty for a more customized content. Right now it has become more customized. Now we are not sitting together to have a certain say the serial or something like. You can choose out of a lot of options available. Individually you can have an access to that particular program. There is a flexibility of a time, so a lot of things are changing. As you know, the new players have emerged, notably so-called the digital content platforms. Bargaining positions are shifting now. So now another quick question to consider are how does digitalization affect the total supply and quality of the creative work? Then what are the effect on the sales via different distribution channel and revenue from the experimentation with the new business model online? See, you know, even if you just pay for the, you can say this, say your internet charges to say some of the company like Jio, even they are offering some platforms along with that particular charges itself. So this is one way of offering you the digital platform. And there are many other ways and means, okay, like that, various things have been offered. Say if you take the Amazon Prime membership, ultimately you are getting a lot of different benefits. So this is how about the different model that how you are offered the various things. So now what are the effects on variety and availability of the work supplied on the market? Then can global reach of platform create entry opportunities for the new talent, including those from the developing economics? See, one thing needs to be understood, that now a lot of people are getting the opportunity, okay, because of this digital platform. So of course, it has created a lot of opportunity for many people and without any geographical even limitations. Or will the virtual trade enhance the superstar outcome whereby the most successful reap the most gains? So now the last point is more or less difficult. Now it will be difficult to have, you can say the certain superhero or something like, okay, it will be very difficult now onwards. Now challenges in the, say, participating in the global production. So the new digital technology, say now India is looking for this. India is planning to develop and working in that direction to have a hub for manufacturing. Okay, why? The reason is because of the say huge availability of the manpower, and that is also in say a very young age, right? So that manpower can be utilized for the particular purpose and can lead to the, you can say, the economic benefit. So the new digital technologies include the robotic, 3D printing, big data, artificial intelligence are transforming global value chain. They may undermine the export competitiveness of the developing economies in the international commerce in some cases and create a new entry opportunities in the others. Then key question to consider are, how will new technology affect incentive for locating production to lower wage developing economies? See, various companies, you can say countries are there. They are interested in only R&D activities. They want to perform research and development. They want to perform with the new product and the processes. They want to have a patent on that. And they don't want to manufacture in their own country because of many other problems. Other problems are availability of the manpower. Another thing is establishment of plant and machinery, even which may lead to, say, a certain say pollution related problems to the countries. So they want to have a technology transfer of such a type of a technology, which is a patented technology, to certain other countries where a very cheaper manpower is available. So then how can a developing economies acquire a new digital technology so that their companies can participate in transforming global value chain? So now if we want to transform and if we want to increase our say manufacturing share to the GDP, then ultimately definitely we have to come up with and we have to adopt to this particular changes as per the industry 4.0, and many things are going on, as you know, in terms of the policy also. So what role does the IP policy play in this context? What are the elements of successful innovation ecosystem that allow developing country to take the advantage? And what skills do developing economies need to invest in? Now, suppose if some other companies want to enter into the India and they want to have their manufacturing unit over here, but say they are afraid of that once I'll go to the India, when I'll start manufacturing something, immediately it might be copied. And there is a very say weak protection in terms of the IP laws and act, then definitely the people would not like to enter into. So we have to protect their interest. So from that point of view also, okay, we need to change the IP policies. Now, IPO administration. So weak technical digital infrastructure, the lack of digital intellectual property data and lack of access to the digital data of intellectual property and scientific literature. This is one of the problem. Okay, can you imagine, suppose I have to perform the patent search, suppose 20 years or 25 years back. Can you imagine how much difficult it is? Because nowadays, almost major offices of the world has digitalized their data. And they have converted all hard data into the digital form. Nowadays, even digital, say, applications are compulsory. So because of that, now when you want to perform the search, the data are available digitally through various search engines, which is provided by the, you can say, the various individual patent offices. But this was not possible a certain years back. And nowadays also it is a problem for many of the countries because it requires the huge investment. So now intellectual property offices need to strengthen the information and communication technology system and business solutions for benefiting from digital technologies. The lack of digital data at intellectual property offices owing to paper-based IP procedure. So still many procedures are paper-based, and even at India also, it needs to completely transform into the digital platform. Lack of digital content and platform to share the IP files with the other offices. Now suppose you want to go for international filing on the basis of one previously filed patent in some other countries. So in that case, is it necessary to submit the fresh data to the other patent office? Why the data which you have submitted to the one of the country patent office cannot be directly transferred to that new office? So these are all many things which are going on and various patent offices are working on it. The advent of artificial intelligence will further widen the digital divide among the IPO and IP. So capacity building for working in the digital environment is needed, and limited access to non-patent, that is scientific and technical information. and the patent specialized patent database literature in the digital format, including lack of patent analytic tool for the exploitation of the information in the developing countries and least developed countries. So again, there are paid database and free databases. When you talk about free databases, these are from the various individual patent offices. So these are available with the limited tool. You can access the data, but there are no tools available where you can play with the manipulation or with the proper arrangement of the data. So under these circumstances, it will be difficult to draw certain, you can say, the interpretation of the data or draw some conclusion. So now IPR enforcement issue to be addressed by the current international system, that is online copyright piracy and trademark counterfeiting. Okay, I'm giving you just one example. All of you who are working with the educational institution or maybe working for some research, you know that any paper, research paper of any journal is available freely on one of the website. Okay, Sci-Hub. Now how they are working? Is it official? Okay, though it is not official.
No.
How this website is working? Right.
Sir,
So
we find that the papers, whatever are on the Sci-Hub, they may be of a paper like when they are in press or they are being reviewed by the reviewer committee and editorial board, and at that time they are being taken from their website and they are uploading on the Sci-Web for the purpose of spreading the knowledge and for the purpose of just helping the researchers. So they are saying that it is for the noble reason. I
but say,
understood.
try to understand what they are saying is it is for sharing the knowledge.
Yeah.
Right, fine, but it cannot be at a free of cost.
Right.
And how by you can say the breaking the copyrights of somebody else or infringing the copyrights of somebody else. So when you talk about say certain publishers, of course some cost is involved. Okay, here we are not fortunate that as a being author of the paper, okay, to get some remuneration on each download of the paper. But day is going to come where, say, if you are the originator, okay, with each download, you may be given certain, you can say the royalty for each download. The days are not far. This is all going to change and transform. Only the issue is they are taking the data from where? From digital platforms somehow and somewhere. So that is the biggest issue because nowadays data are available. A lot of platforms are offered. It is transferred to the digital means. Then somewhere some link is missing, how to control that. So these are the biggest issue and each and every country is working on this particular aspect, that how to stop all this unauthorized use. Then extractable by the ease, speed and low cost of making and distributing unauthorized copies of online and of engaging in the counterfeit of e-commerce. Difficulties in identifying and or prosecuting the infringers. See, just today I came across one news where Amazon has offered to all its, you can say the clients, okay, who are registered on the digital platform to say support them in come up with the IP protection and even to acquire the IP in terms of trademark and some other IP rights. Because they want that whatever is available on the platform, it should be a genuine product. And nowadays, what is happening, say once you come up with some product and when you put it on the digital platform along with the photos and other features, okay, next day you will find the same product, okay, which you have offered and it has been copied by somebody and is available again for selling on the same platform. Now, how you will fight with all this? Okay, so these are the biggest challenges where the people are coming up with. So now the cross-border online infringement and territoriality issues. So how to stop the cross-border infringement? Okay, suppose copyright means you are getting the rights all over the world. You need not require to go for filing of the application in a different country and taking the grant. The copyright, once you create something, you are the copyright holder. But if somebody is copying it and using it in some say far area of, say as an example, maybe the Russia or maybe say the Africa, how you stop them? And what sort of say legal actions you will take on them, right? So these are the you can say the great issues. Okay, then role of internet intermediaries. Now already you said that somewhere they are picking up the document where it has been published or when it is under review or something like. So now it is you can say the data is transferred to some service providers, okay, using certain, you can say the infrastructure. So where the lacuna is, how these people could grab it, right? So there are a lot of issues which people are working upon. Then issues related to the legal framework, capacity constraint in terms of financial, human, judicial and administrative and technical capacities. IP and judiciary, biggest issue. Say suppose there is some say infringement case which has been filed in the court of law. Okay, then who will take who will give a judgment? So judgment is given by the judges. Now the limitation may be with understanding of the technology. They have their own limitations. Okay, they are very good on the legal side, but then in case of the say IP related cases where a lot of other technicalities are required, knowledge is required related to the intellectual property, then how to give the judgment? So when you talk about this, these are the complex and multifaceted disputes requiring effective remedies that reconcile the territoriality of IP rights and judicial structure with the transactional and online nature of the growing volume of the IP disputes. Say in India, there is one board which has been introduced in the year 2008 or 7, that is basically for the trademark, that is known as an intellectual property appellate board by the Indian Patent Office under the Act. And basically you can say it has been given a say level which is similar to that of the High Court. So if you want to challenge the decision of Patent Office, you can challenge it in IPAB, that is Intellectual Property Appellate Board, where the body is from the people who are from the Patent Office itself, and they have the knowledge of both the technicality as well as the legal aspect of the various IP laws. So that is helping a lot in coming up with the say speedy you can say the decisions on the various related cases. So concerning novel question arising from the technological changes that may not have been envisioned and addressed by the you can say legislature and the society, involving emerging actors including online intermediaries, generating increasing volume of the cases at increased cost of courts. So these are the things which I wanted to discuss as far as the various challenges are concerned. And with that, I am just concluding my today's talk, and now it is open. I can say that it is just, you can say, to give you the various domains or the various prioritize, you can say domains on which you can think upon to work upon for your future growth. That's all. Thank you. So with this, let me stop my presentation here. And
Thank you so much, sir.
just a minute, let me. Okay.
Yes.
I think now my screen is available to you, no? I've stopped the presentation now. Yes, yes.
It was really an informative session regarding because you have touched, that Industry 4.0 and IP, protection of IP. Both are emerging areas as far as our country is considered. We are emerging, we are slowly putting our legs into these fields. So the person who is looking forward to work in this field will be surely got benefited by this content. And thank you very much, sir. I now request Professor H.D. Patel, sir, who is an assistant professor in Mechanical Engineering Department, LE College, Morbi, to present a vote of thanks to Dr. Anish Gandhi, sir. May I request Dr. H.D. Patel, sir? Yeah, who is? Yeah, please.
Madam, may I audible?
Actually, madam, I have really enjoyed in whole session of the Dr. Anish Gandhi, sir.
Yeah.
The way he is actually presenting,
Ah.
he is actually expert to explain each and every topic in a systematic way. So
Yes,
I really
exactly,
like the
exactly.
way of the teaching because of
Yes.
if you compare so many speakers are there,
Mm-hmm.
they are actually they are looking to complete the whole topics. But actually,
Mm-hmm.
Gandhi sir has covered all the topics systematically, gradually, so that we can digest it. So really, it was very nice session.
Yeah, we can say that it was a merely a very good combination of knowledge and very good characteristics of a good teacher. So we really enjoyed it with
Yes, absolutely right.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. H.D. Patel, sir, are you there?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir.
Respected Dr. Anish Gandhi, sir, participants from various institutions and organizers. I would like to thank on the behalf of LU College Morbi for accepting our request to give a session on the Industry 4.0 and IPR, and also for giving the valuable knowledge on the history of IPR, government steps to enhance our capacity to do work on the IP Industry 4.0 and global scenario of the patents, and what is the challenges we are facing in the to increase the capacity to IPR, and what is the issues we are facing to develop the IPR. So once again, I would like to thank to Dr. Anish Gandhi sir for giving the very informative session on the IPR. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ali College Morbi,
Thank
and
you.
I'm thankful to all the participants. And if you want to explore in this particular area, please look at the patenting of computer related inventions, how it can be taken forward. Because many people are nowadays working on the computer related inventions. They are coming up with some app, some software, or maybe coming up with a hardware where the algorithm or a software is a heart of it. Then how to present it to the patent office to get it patented, which is of more value as far as the commercialization is concerned. So these areas are really of say great help to the society if one can encase, and you can have even by research you can earn a lot, okay, in terms of say rather than giving it free of cost to the society in the form of a paper which can be downloaded from anywhere, which can be used in any way without your permission, even for commercialization purpose. This is to be considered as a very weak right. By publishing paper we are getting only the moral rights, that's we can say, and we can earn a PhD degree, we can show it on our biodata also, we can have a reputation in the world also as a being researcher. But what in terms of money, as we are putting the effort here? So I request all of you, please strongly look at protecting your IP rights. Of course, you can publish a paper, only you have to change the sequence. First of all, go for filing an application for a patent, and immediately on the next day, then file a paper or submit a paper. So you can have just out of one work, you can have many advantages. So what we are waiting for, right? But please look at the opportunity, and if you can do it, please try to go for a strong protection, because future is of those people who are having certain grant on the certain technologies, right? So thank you all again, and thank you the
Absolutely
audience
wonderful.
for
Absolutely wonderful, sir. Because many of us have earned a doctorate degree, or majority of the participants are pursuing the degree, and for the sake of publishing, or sometimes to fulfill the criteria to earn degree, we are writing papers and publishing with some good houses, publication houses. But we don't know that how to protect the right that we have put so many efforts in drafting a paper. But this was a really very nice suggestion to move on the way where you can earn money and you can also protect your intellectual right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Sir, may I ask some questions? Gandhi sir.
yes, you can.
Sir, in Indian Patent Office, is there any patent registered as far as Industry 4.2 is concerned?
Yes.
Okay. May I have any data regarding that?
You can share me your mail ID. I can provide
Okay.
you the relevant patents.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a nice audience, and forgive if something has gone wrong in between. I could not show you the video somehow because of the technological issues. But of course, with all these limitations, we are doing great. We are meeting on a, say, virtual platform for many such sort of, you can say, the FDPs and many other things. So all we are doing a great thing, though because of the limitations. So best of luck to all of you. And thank you again for giving me an opportunity to share my views over here. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, may I request all the participants to please leave the meet. We again will be joining tomorrow with the schedule that I have shared with you all. Thank you all. Thank you all for being a very good listeners. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.